Good morning, ladies. It has been quite some time that you've had the opportunity to meet each other and catch up with your friends. And I'm sure you would like to know how your friends have been doing during the span of time and how you have spent your time during this lockdown. And so, for that, you need to move a little back in time to the past, which brings me to today's lesson, the past tense. We have already done the present tense, but since I take it that you are quite eager to catch up with each other, you do need to take the help of the past tense. Now, the past tense, like the present tense, can be divided into four categories: the simple past, the past continuous, the past perfect, and the past perfect continuous. The simple past is used for two reasons. The simple past is also known as the past indefinite and is used for the following reasons. A. An action completed in the past. An action completed in the past. For example, he left for New Delhi yesterday. He left for New Delhi yesterday. So because it is yesterday, it's not today, it's not tomorrow, it's an event which has already taken place. So it is a past tense, an action completed in the past. Second usage is for a past habit or a routine. Something that you were accustomed to doing sometime in the past, but now it is no longer a part of your regular habit. For example, if I say, when I was in college, I went for a morning walk every day. So this was my past habit during my college days. When I was in college, I went for a morning walk every day. Now notice the format of the verb in the simple past tense. In the simple past tense, the verb just is conjugated in the third person. He left for New Delhi yesterday, and then again, I went for a morning walk. Go becomes went. So it's a simple conversion to the third person. Now moving on to the past continuous. Like the present continuous, the past continuous also, the format ends in ing. But unlike the present continuous, the past continuous has a was or a were plus the verb, and the verb is ending in ing. That is the formula. So past continuous, once again, is used for two reasons. Reason A, 1, to refer to something happening at the time of reference in the past. To refer to something happening at the time of reference in the past. So this is usually used when you are trying to describe something, when you are trying to recreate a moment of the past, when you are using a certain point as a time of reference. For example, if you say, last evening when we were eating our dinner, or last evening when we were watching a movie, there was a knock at the door. So last evening when we were watching a movie, there was a knock at the door. So you're describing something, you're narrating an incident, you're sharing an incident, you're telling a story. And that's when you use the past continuous, because you want to vividly recreate a certain moment in the past and use it as a point of reference. Second usage, when we talk about something that was a persistent habit in the past. When we talk about something that was a persistent habit in the past, somebody used to do something in the past that was a regular habit in the past with the person, and now that no longer exists. For example, if I say, nobody ever spoke to him because he was always quarreling with everybody. Nobody ever spoke to him because he was always quarreling with everybody. So, was quarreling with everybody. That means once upon a time, this was a persistent habit of the person. The implication can be that that is at present no longer a habit. He does not have that habit anymore. Or it could be he still continues with that habit. But more or less, the implication is that he does not have that habit anymore. So nobody ever spoke to him at that point of time, sometime back in the past, maybe 2 years back, maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year back, 5 years back, ever spoke to him at that point of time, because his persistent habit was constantly getting into quarrels with everybody. Okay? So that's simple past, past continuous, and now we move on to the past perfect. Past perfect to indicate the earlier of the two activities that happened in the past. That is, often when we are referring to a point of time in the past, we refer to two activities that took place at the same time. Now, we need to show which action took place earlier and which action took place later. You can't use the simple past for both. You can't use the past perfect for both. You have to show which one started earlier, and then you have to show which one took place later. So, for example, you can say, by the time I reached the station, the train had already left. By the time I reached the station, the train had already left. So which is the action that takes place earlier? The train's leaving takes place earlier. And which is the action that takes place later? My reaching the station takes place later. I'm late. I reached the station late. And that is why the train has already left earlier. So by the time I reached the station, the train had already left. Both are past tenses. But if I need to show which action took place earlier, I have to use the past perfect. And if I have to show which action took place later, then I have to use the simple past. Okay, so here is the formula for past perfect. Earlier, for present perfect, you had has or have plus past participle of the verb, and here you have had and the participle of the verb. So had left, had gone, had sung, had eaten, had slept. This is past perfect. Now, I would just quickly like to read out to you a little passage from Helen Keller's story of her life, where Helen Keller is talking about her childhood. You are to identify the past tenses, the various kinds of past tenses that have been used here. And at the end of the lesson, at the end of my class, that is, you have to describe a memorable incident of your lives by using the past tense. It can be a sad moment, it can be a happy moment, it can be a delightful moment, moment of triumph, joy, any significant, memorable incident of your life. And obviously you have to use the past tense in describing it. Not more than 10 sentences perhaps at the most. And you have to share this with your friends. Here is Helen Keller describing her childhood. And this is an experience with her teacher, Miss Anne Sullivan. One day, while I was playing with my new doll, Miss Sullivan put my big rag doll into my lap also, spelt D-O-L-L, and tried to make me understand that D-O-L-L applied to both. Earlier in the day, we had had a tussle over the words mug and water. Miss Sullivan had tried to impress it upon me that M-U-G is mug and that W-A-T-E-R is water. But I persisted in confounding the two. In despair, she had dropped the subject for the time, only to renew it at the first opportunity. I became impatient at her repeated attempts, and, seizing the new doll, I dashed it upon the floor. I was keenly delighted when I felt the fragments of the broken doll at my feet. Neither sorrow nor regret followed my passionate outburst. I had not loved the doll. In the still, dark world in which I lived, there was no strong sentiment or tenderness. I felt my teacher sweep the fragments to one side of the hearth, and I had a sense of satisfaction that the cause of my discomfort was removed. She brought me my hat, and I knew I was going out into the warm sunshine. This thought, if a worldless sensation may be called a thought, made me hop and skip with pleasure. Okay? So, that was a short extract from Helen Keller's life, where she's describing an incident of her life and the course of her interactions with her teacher, Miss Anne Sullivan, and how Miss Anne Sullivan helped her to learn to read and to write, because Helen Keller was a deaf and dumb and a blind person, a blind child. And we can imagine how difficult it must have been for Miss Anne Sullivan to handle such a child and teach her to read and write, so that Helen Keller became a very, very famous writer when she grew up. Now, as I've already told you, ladies, you have to choose an incident of your life, a significant incident, describe it in the past tense, and share it with your friends. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Keep good health, stay safe, stay indoors, keep smiling. Thank you.